Religion plays such an important part of India's past and present that it is integral to its culture. But it is the diversity of religion that is most impressive in this massive country. There are huge populations of Muslims and Hindus. The majority of Sikhs, Jains, and Parsis live here as well, and there are large minorities of Christians and Buddhists. Just about every sect you can think of is here, but the core and majority is Hindu. It is to two of these holy places in Hinduism and Jainism that we venture today. But that's not all. We will also visit one of the birthplaces of Buddhism. So join us today as we visit Central India, land of pilgrimages. Namaste, I'm Bill Ball, and I'm going to be your guide on this episode of Journeys in India. And this is India. When Mark Twain traveled through India at the turn of the 19th century, he wrote that India is the cradle of the human race, the birthplace of human speech, the mother of history, the grandmother of legend, the great-grandmother of tradition. Our most valuable and most instructive materials in history are treasured up in India only. Join us each week as we explore the entire Indian subcontinent, from Kerala in the south to the Himalayas in the north and all points in between. We'll introduce you to the architecture, history, and culture of one of the most exotic, mysterious, and influential places on Earth. Journeys in India. Today we're going to visit two incredible sites, Khajuraho and its great temples, and Varanasi with its connection to the Ganges. They're both important to India culturally and religiously. We will start our visit in one of the most beautiful and probably controversial UNESCO religious sites in the world, Khajuraho. I'd like to start by breaking the biggest myth about Khajuraho, and that is that all of the statues are about erotica. In fact, only 10% of them are. The rest of them are about everyday things like work, play, you name it, anything but erotica. These mostly non-erotic statues are located in a series of temples near the present-day city of Khajuraho in the state of Madhya Pradesh in north-central India. It is easily reached by air with daily flights from Delhi, Varanasi, and Mumbai. The temples are quite impressive. Built between the 10th and 11th centuries by the Chandela dynasty of central India, they were the religious core of that time. With the fall of the dynasty in the 1200s, the temples were abandoned and hidden under dense palms. The name Khajuraho is derived from khajur, the Hindi word for palm. The temples were rediscovered by British Army engineer T.S. Burt centuries later, but by then only a quarter of the original temples still existed. But this still has left 22 unbelievably carved temples, some Hindu and some Jain, to marvel at today. The temples are open to the public, many restored to fully appreciate their architectural and artistic detail. For instance, on the Shiva temple, there are over 500 different hairstyles on the statues. These exquisite carvings depict the growth and maturity of women. But this is one of the erotic temples. Khajuraho was made a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1986. That means the site is so important that it should be protected by the world for all of mankind. But of course, it is the womankind that is most predominantly featured. The temples are grouped into three geographic divisions: Western, Eastern, and Southern. Made primarily of sandstone and granite bases, they were held together not by mortar, but joints and gravity. Many of the massive columns were carved out of huge stones weighing over 20 tons. The region around Khajuraho is rich in strong but carvable sandstone, which lent itself to the incredible work done on these temples. Many historians and architects have called the carvings the best in India and maybe the world. Any complex this large has many secrets and mysteries. Khajuraho is no exception. In the front of the Western Hindu Lakshmi temple is a statue of a lion eating a person. It is not there to intimidate or frighten would-be pilgrims. It is in fact the symbol of the Chandela kings who built the temple. Okay, so maybe the kings picked it as a symbol to intimidate and frighten, but that's another story. The Eastern temples are Jain temples. Jain is a religion that you might say is a reformed Hinduism. It was begun in the 6th century BC as a counter to strict Orthodox Brahmanism. It emphasized the purifying ability of the human soul through self-discipline and non-violence to all living creatures. Jains also believe in open-mindedness to others' beliefs and ideas. Though the Jains' lifestyle, vegetarianism, and non-violence may seem hard for some to imagine, the ideas of world peace and tolerance are not just catchphrases, but everyday actions. As one stark reminder of their beliefs, no one wearing leather may enter their temples. So if you plan to enter a Jain sanctuary, stick to cotton, polyester, and plastic. The Jain temples are some of the most intricately carved in the whole of Khajuraho. It is assumed that the large flourishing Jain population in the 10th and 11th century lived on the eastern side of Khajuraho, since the 31 Jain temples were all located together in a tight grouping. Some of the largest statues are also found here. Jains do not have a deity, but believe in rebirth and a never-ending universe. No matter which of the temples you visit, there are just a few etiquette rules to follow. Remember, these are religious places and a respectful attitude is required, even when viewing the more erotic statues. And secondly, shoes are to be removed before entering any of the temples. The temples are much simpler inside than on the outside, though not completely without ornamentation. These were and still are places of worship for Hindus and Jains. Only one southern temple is left, and that is a Hindu temple dedicated to the god Vishnu. In some ways, having one temple to look at is refreshing. The eastern and western groups are so large and beautiful, it is hard to see the detail or religious significance of any one temple. Here, no decision need be made. There is just one. Probably built around 1100 AD, it follows the ancient Hindu practice of facing south, the same direction that a similar time period temples of Angkor Wat in Cambodia are oriented. The centerpiece of the temple is a statue of Vishnu with 4 arms. In fact, the temple's name means 4 arms. There are no erotic statues here, as is in the case of most Hindu temples almost everywhere, but in Khajuraho. The temple is a distance from both the western and eastern groups, but the short car ride is worth it, if for no other reason than to see how a more typical Hindu temple looks. For me, it is the magnitude of the temples, the rich carvings, the massive construction, and their getting lost to the jungle and their subsequent rebirth that makes them so special. The town of Khajuraho is pretty much dedicated to handling the tourists and pilgrims that come to visit these incredible monuments. Many are employed in hotels and restaurants, while others continue to work on the restoration of statues and the temples themselves. The tourist facilities run the whole range of budgets, but good, moderately priced Western hotels are also available. Many of those hotels, like the Ramada, where we chose to stay, emphasize service as well as comfort. I do caution you on choosing lower-priced options. You often get what you pay for. I choose my hotels based on quality versus price, attempting to get the best value, but not necessarily the cheapest price. Khajuraho is a draw for tourists, though you don't have to worry about crowds. The day we spent at the monuments, there couldn't have been more than 20 other people spread over acres of space.